Okay, good morning. We have small number joined for the session, but anyway, we'll start the thing now. Not wanted to give the overall summary. I just gave a small activity for all of you, uh, just to get your input about the last time only 5 people have so far answered. So if I look back uh, analysis, it shows two people have watched, two people have slightly watched, so out of 5. Yes, but I can manage, all the people say, so it's a good. There is a one comment, the difficulty of downloading those videos are not numbered according to lecture weeks. It is better to those videos are named according to the lecture weeks. Let me explain you the way. Uh, if I go to the topic 4, now topic 4 is the evolving technologies. So here I have, of course, I have not ordered, but I have put part 1, part 2, part 3. That is the thing. So whole slide set you can download from here if you go there, and the part 1, if you click there, you can see the video. Okay. So if you really want to download this one, what you have to do it now, if you can click this one when you are playing, you
Welcome to
can
the
go to the
course User
uh,
Interface Design of Master of
YouTube
Information Technology.
one.
Uh,
Um,
Today we will discuss about
for
the third
example,
section, evolve.
uh, wait a second. Let me, I think my share went away, and I'll do share it again. Okay. Um, Now, if I go to the section, okay, so you, when you are in the topic 4, part 1, part 2, part 3, this is one I put P1, P2, or part 3, this put it, and that is the kind of an ordering. Suppose if you want to download this one, um, and what you have to do it, once you click it, you will see this here. But when you are playing, you should be able
Welcome
to
to
see
the
this YouTube
course
link. Okay,
User
if
Interface
you click
Design of
this one,
Master of Information Technology.
it will be taken to
Uh,
the relevant
Today we
YouTube
will
page
discuss about
where you can
the
see the
third
video.
section,
Now, if you
evolving
want to
technologies
download
for
this one to
rich
watch it
interaction.
later, or if you are not in a
In this
comfortable,
section,
so what you
we
can
will
do it,
discuss
you need to
evolving
install
technologies,
the
new
plugin
technologies, new
for this
technologies,
thing.
how
For
they can be used, how
example,
they can be
I'll show
used
you. I
in
mean,
the
there are so many downloadable
interaction
plugins.
design, interaction
Download
design,
as, I mean, this is
and
I have
how we
installed for my
can
Firefox that
we can
plugin.
design
Any
interfaces,
video, if I
user
want to watch it
interfaces
later, and
for
if you want
human
to download
computer
it
human
sometimes in the
computer interaction.
night time, and then you can watch it at the time. So you just go there
Integrated
and
learning
download as. If
integrated
you click
learning
it, you
outcome
can download
section
whatever
is
the
section is
the
first
level,
we
and
will
even
define
later. And there is some other
the
things like a
what is the
save,
rich
share,
interaction,
sorry, save
and
to
how
watch it
that
later. That's
happens
also
between
temporary download, and you
the
can watch. So
humans
otherwise,
and
if you want to
computing
download the whole
machines.
video, you can do that one.
Then we will
So that's
discuss
the
about
kind of
role of
mechanism
technology
I
for text,
use,
audio, video based
and
input and output,
whenever I watch things.
and will also identify
Wait,
different
wait,
features of
something is running.
pointing and touch interfaces.
Yeah. Okay. That's with respect to the evolving technologies. So I think if I quickly summarize the evolving technologies, if you have watched them, let me open the slide set. I think in the user interface one, here the main outcome, as I mentioned, what we call the rich interaction between the human and computing machines. So do you have any idea what is a rich interaction means? Hmm? Yeah, what do you mean by the rich interaction? If you have some feedback, you can type on the chat box. What do you mean by the rich interaction? Hmm? Rich means, if we say the rich, the opposite of that, but poor. Okay. When I say rich, it is where you feel very comfortable, uh, very friendly, and at the same time, uh, without any much trouble, you should be able to do whatever you want. Okay. I mean, then we expect a kind of an advanced environment where we will be able to see the system. So that is what we call the rich interaction. So how do we really define, or how do we really define the rich interaction? So rich interaction, later you will understand. If you have watched them, you know that if we can automate the interaction as much as possible, then interaction becomes more luxury and user-friendly. Just to take a good example from the outside world, have you watched something called the very old TV series of program called the Night Rider? Okay, have you watched? How many of you? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. In the Night Rider, it's an automated car. A person is driving, and the car is very intelligent. Okay, and the people are just telling what he wants to get, and the car is in a very intelligent, means he knows what the user is doing, what is requirement, what are the things he has to do it. So it's not like in a normal vehicle what we see. I mean, the normal vehicle, we also have an interface to drive it, but this intelligent vehicle is in a really very advanced one, which can help. So if you haven't, you can just Google go to the YouTube and you can watch about the Night Rider. There are some more clips are there available. It's the story is a little different, but what I am only wanted to highlight the interaction that takes place between this driver and the vehicle, and it happens mainly because there are so many components which can capture the people, which can capture the both the direct thing what the user is doing as well as an indirect thing what the people is doing. So hope you may remember we talked about the two types of an interaction called the direct interaction and what was the other one? Indirect interaction. So what is the difference between the direct and indirect? If I type something on the keyboard and then I can see the letters appears on the screen. So if you suppose if you started a word processing software and you want to type something, and you may type. When you are typing, you can see the letters appearing on the screen. But when you keep on typing, little later, if this word processing software has a facility of a spell checking or grammar checking, then you can see there are different underlines coming with the different colors. Hope all of you have that experience. That means once you are interacting, it's an indirectly analyze the content and provide you a feedback with the correctness of it. So the direct and indirect are both very important. And in order to capture, especially the indirect interaction, we need several different approaches. So one approach is where you use sensors to capture it. Okay. Sensors are kind of the devices, small components, tiny components, which we can attach to the devices, computing devices, to capture the status of the user. The simplest example, in a mobile phone, you know that when you are going to talk to the phone and when you take the phone to, I mean, when you start calling, when you take the phone to your near the ear, the screen automatically switched off. How comes? There is a small sensor on a mobile phones which identifies its position and nearby thing, and then we call it photo sensor, and it's automatically switch off the screen because then it saves the power, it's ways at the same time protect the device and so many things, but the user can continue the interaction, the talking through the phone. So like that, any computing device could have so many sensors to capture the context of the user. And based on the context of the user, it is possible to provide a very rich interaction. So we call it in the today's context, sometimes you may have heard people say intelligent interaction. So if it is a very intelligent interaction, so the devices begin now, hope all of you may have heard this AI-based system. In AI-based systems, what you will get, people are talking about very automated, highly capable devices. So systems can be designed and developed for that. So this is the whole thing, the rich interaction story. Okay, so important thing you have to keep in mind, in the rich interaction, we capture both direct and the indirect interaction. Okay, and at the same time, we use the sensors to capture them. Describe the role of a technology for text, audio, and video-based input and output. Anything did you learn from about that? Now, right now, I'm talking. So my audio is captured and it is sent through the Zoom and all of you can hear that. If I switch on the camera, you can see me. And I am using the chat box, and you can use the chat box to communicate. So a textual communication is happening, audio communication is happening, video communication is happening. So we use several technologies to do that one. And it depends on the devices. Sometimes you may be using the laptop, sometimes in a tab, phone, or desktop. If you look at those four devices, the way text, audio, video are captured differently. And the interaction is provided based on those captured audio, video. So that is also you really need to identify in your any context where the interaction happens. So that is very important for the interaction design. So the interaction design is always is developed based on the type of input. Now in the chat box, as you can see, the people can chat, and then I can, for example, I can chat to all the people, or even I can chat for the specific people, or I can send a message to some specific people. And you can do the, I don't know how it appears, but since you are not the host, you may be able to send definitely message to me, or you can send a message to the everyone in the chat box. So that option you can select when you are communicating through the text. So right now you are muted, but more anytime you can unmute and you can talk. That's the audio base. So video is almost the same. Then the third outcome is what this different features of pointing and touch interfaces. This has become a very important thing when we develop the interaction design. Think before Windows 10, most of the thing, I mean, not every, most of the devices, desktop computers and the laptops they did consider the what we call the traditional interface, keyboard mouse based interface. The mouse is used to identify the components on the screen indirectly because it's a small device which you can move, and then you can change the cursor and then interact this one. Even right now, I am moving the mouse and then trying to locate it at different places. And then I can interact based on the where the mouse cursor point is located. However, now things are changing a lot. The mouse culture is going away. Now what comes? Now we are getting, I mean, it's like in a smartphone, touch sensitive interface. So this is not now, even during the last few decades, it has become very popular. At early stage, it was not very good because of the technical limitation. But now touch interfaces are very, very good. Even the mobile phone, tabs, all these things, you don't use a mouse pointer. You can directly touch something and you can interact. So this feature also is creating very good interfaces. So pointing at touch interfaces, because the interfaces needs to be developed, or even the interaction needs to be designed differently, depending on the way people interact with that one. Now, for example, why we are having this icons on the mobile phones? That seems to be the starting point in that interface. So the where the people can directly go and select any location and touch it, and then by finger or using a small pen, people can do lots of interaction. So that's another the thing that people really need to have to think. So if you expect to develop an interface where the people will interact using touch-based environment, let's say if you are developing a mobile application, then the interface should be designed considering the touch-based environment. If you are developing a desktop application, and then most of the time you may assume that will be a non-touch based interface where the people use the traditional keyboard mouse interface. Or if you are wanted to develop a touch based application, even to run on a desktop, then you have to when you are designing, you will have to think about the technology. So important lesson is this. The target technology affects us when we design things. Okay. And we have to consider. Otherwise, if we don't consider, there may be lots of a problem. Okay. Now, even the touch based one, we always have to see it's not like a mouse pointer, not very precision is very different. So then you need to have a slightly large icon. So this factor is affecting. So you really need to now, suppose if in your projects, if you are going to develop something as a part of your project, then you have to think about, okay, what will be the target environment of GMI application. If it is a mobile application, then you need to have a different design. If it is a desktop application, a different design. So that must be identified as at very beginning of a project. This is we call sometimes, hope you may have heard under the software engineering, called the usability requirement. Yeah. Explain the evolution of computing power towards the natural interaction. What comes to your mind when I say evolution, computing power, natural interaction? Those are the three keywords we see: the evolution, computing power, natural interaction. Evolution. Okay, let's start computing power. What do you mean by the computing power? Generally speaking, the speed and capability of the computing devices. So with the development of the technology, these things become more and more faster, advanced. Okay. And that hardware development, we need to use them to develop a better interfaces. So what is the better interface? The best interface, we call it natural interaction. What do you mean by natural interaction? If something is natural means, again, you don't want to artificially try to do something. You can directly communicate. Now, if you remember, if you have the time, just watch the night ride. I hope most of you may have watched. So the guy, the driver, is just talking to the computer, and the computer is reacting to it, just like in a man. Okay, and he is not just pressing buttons here and there. So natural language is the best approach sometimes for the interaction. So it's a harder thing to interact through the natural languages. So natural interaction, it's what really happens. We feel it. I mean, there is no barrier. It's just like the real world. We just say something. And when I'm in the front of a computer, if I say something, the computer can understand and help me to browse it, to provide the information that may be better. So we really need to see this development, advances in the computing should be taken to create better interfaces through the natural interaction. This is what we wanted to see how it, I mean, it's a kind of an explanation, but we will see. So we really need to understand what is a natural interaction and how computing power could be taken. If I give you a simple example, I mean, if you go to the Google or even the search, usually you type. Now, in some context, you wanted to quickly browse, but you don't have the time to do it. Even in mobile phones, the typing is not very comfortable. But then the search, you have a voice. You can tell, you can speak. And then automatically that appears. Depending on, sometimes there may be small mistakes which you can correct if you want. But most of the time, if you have tried it, you can see it can easily can capture what you are saying in even a, depends on the language. So if you say something in singular in front of a computer, so if you are not using the text to voice, sorry, voice to say text, we say voice to text technology or software that capture and that displays on the screen. So depending on the language, the relevant thing should be active. So if you are using the English language based voice to text tool, if you say something singular, it doesn't make any sense at all. So you have to use something that match with the. So those are the main thing I expected. So if you go through this course, that you will be able to. So we discuss about the rich interaction, text-based input-output, pointing touch sensitive, voice-based input, multimodal and natural interaction. What do you mean by the multimodal? Gesture-based interaction. Then the effect of the computing power for HCI. Those are the main topics that are covered. So if you have watched them, so I am not going to speak everything in detail, but wanted to ask a few questions, and also you can ask something if there isn't something that is there, because repeating everything, it doesn't make any sense. What is the batch processing? When we are talking about the direct interaction and indirect interaction, hope you have heard something called batch processing. What is that? You can say in voice or you can just type. Don't worry. I mean, if you have heard batch processing, what do you mean by the batch processing? Very simple. Even in the O-level, students should be able to say. I remember even in the O-level ICT books, this was explained somewhere. Anyone willing to type or say the answer? I got one answer. Collects data as batches and process it with on-go. Collect data as batches and the process it with on-go. Okay. Yes, you are correct to some extent. In a batch process, we collect the set of data and then process them together at different time points and then produce it. So the people may spend a lot of time to collect the data, or they may get the whole set of data at the once. Can you give me an example? Payroll process. Yes, you are correct. The payroll process, where the payroll means even the salary is prepared. So salary is prepared at the end of the month, and you wanted to collect the details, people's attendance and their status, their designation, and then the process and produce the report and post that report as a salary report. I mean, it's what goes to the financial section. So they process it and they say how much should be paid for the people. So that is, the processing takes place only once all the attendance details are available. So the data attendance details, sometimes they collect daily and they store them and they keep them. Then as in a batch, they process them together at the end of the month. What is the opposite of batch processing? What is the opposite? Real-time processing. Yes. Online. Yes. Is there any difference between real-time processing and online? Is this the same or different? Real-time means actually the moment you send or do something, it reacts. Now, if I take the example of, suppose you go to the ATM machine, you put the card and then you have to input the PIN, and then if it accepts, it's immediately update you and give an interface for you to continue. So there is no time lag between input and the output. So the time lag between the input and output is the key parameter that we use to say something is batch processing or real-time processing. In the real-time processing, people will get immediately, maybe in a few seconds. In a batch processing, it may be several hours, several days, several months sometimes to produce the output. So it takes more time to collect all the input. So the process takes place. In reality, I mean, the many applications, if you looked at, contains both these things together. They may have an immediate reaction, immediate output for some inputs. Then there may be a time-bound output for some other requirements. Now the question, real-time and online, are they same or different? When we say online, it says the direction. The direction of where you are and where is the computer. So right now, if I have a computer in front of me, so I directly interact. But suppose through the computer, if I type the URL to open a file, that file is not in my machine. That file may be on another location. So through online, we call the connected network, I will be able to get it and to my computer and open it. So in a online usually refers to this connected environment. In the connected environment, sometimes it may be real time. Sometimes it may be batch processing, non real time. It takes time. So the interaction, the context of the interaction online refers where the user, where the server machine is located. On the other hand, the real time or batch processing describes the timing parameter between input and the output. So most of the time, if the input takes more time, people have to wait to collect all data to start the processing together. I hope what I explain is clear. If not, please ask anything. You can post into the chat box. then that's the main thing which comes there. So this is the what, right? The gap between the computers and the input and output. This is a different things, okay? When the party doesn't understand the language. So this is the kind of a different gap. But I talked about the timing gap. The timing gap is the what describes the real-time processing and the batch processing. So the gap between the computers and the humans there's a gap. Computers are not human beings. They are machines. Then what happens? They need to capture. I mean, through the interfaces, the systems is trying to capture the user. So most probably, things may capture some technical way. Then system has to translate that one into a machine readable format to start the processing. So it's something you can visualize. Let me take my whiteboard. There is the whiteboard. I have to unshare and then get the whiteboard from the advanced component. Can you see the whiteboard?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So this is the screen is post. What do you mean by? Okay. If you can't see it there. So this is I mean, if we wanted to say the interface is always here. So this is if I say interface, and the machine is located here. And this side is where the human user is located. So the human user may say something, but the machine may not understand because the natural language is what the user is saying. The machine may understand only the machine language. What is a machine language? Hope you know. Machine language has how many symbols? How many symbols machine language has? 1 and 0. Yes, we call binary. The main reason everything is recorded in the binary format. Usually it's not a readable format. Yes, if things are recorded in the binary format, then only the machine can understand. So human users may say lots of things in the natural languages, or he may select some components on the interface to describe its requirement. And at the end of the day, what the interface is trying to do, the interface is trying to translate this human user's requirement to what? It's translate something to machine readable format. That is what it does. So input will be converted by the interface to machine format, then the machine will process it, and once it completes the processing, once it's complete the processing, the machine want to tell to the user. Again, if we put the output in the ones and zeros, the person may not be able to understand. Therefore, it is very important they will have to translate into the natural language. Yeah, the human user cannot. Or some sort of a visual appearance, so we call the visual language format on the screen where the human user can see. So in the whole process, what we see there, human user and the machine interface. Is what really happens in the processing. So interface we call kind of a translator. Is it a kind of a translator which do this process of taking things from human understandable to the machine understandable format and vice versa, reversing back to the user. So this is the gap that is filled by the interface. So that gap, when that gap is filled, the computer can use lots of sensors to get the status of the user. It's a requirement of the user. And then, because the user is someone who is not going to tell everything in his mind. Okay. If I take my example of the night rider, and sometimes the driver is not telling everything to the car. And the car knows about his feeling, his status, whether he's sad, whether he has a problem, and then trying to talk to the person to see how it could be resolved and how he can help them. So the interaction become more, we call rich, if it can capture all these other things. We call this a contextual information of the user, and then provided a better output or service, then only we will see rich interaction. So direct versus indirect, so what I explained to you. And in this whole discussion, there is something called perpetual computing. Okay. So this is what I explained. Some people describe them as where the computing technology is computing. Perpetual computing is a technology that uses a voice commands, facial recognition, gesture controls to interact with the computer. So that is kind of a model of a computing where people can provide more effective interfaces. That's what is described there. Then I discuss lots of things about the rich interactions and how it works and some examples and the role of the sensors. Sensors plays a big role in the rich interaction. Now, today's context, I hope that you have heard these IoT devices, we call it. So IoT devices are facing lots of data could be taken and processed and provided. So sometimes it may be a big collection of data fusion, it goes to the interface. Sensors in action. it's described the thing. So if you had a time, you can go through. But roughly, I mean, but I wanted to say the role of the sensors in the rich interaction. Next, I talked about the text-based input and output devices and the systems where to explain, because text-based input and output is the most critical process that we see. Then I talked about how this keyboard works. Starting with the keyboard, still it's plays a big role whenever we interact. Earlier, there are so many ways, even it is in a small, what we call a peripheral device that should be connected to computer to find it, or sometimes the computer, like in a laptop, you already have it. Different ways, PS2, USB, Bluetooth, wireless connections could be established. So then people find it very comfortable with the text-based interaction. However, text-based interaction depends on the way how people use the text when they are interacting. I'm happy to hear how many of you can type without looking at the keyboard, keys on the keyboard. We call this one as a touch typing. I always very happy and to see that answer from all of you. Raise your hand if you can touch type. One. I'm expecting more answers if there are any more. Only one so far. We have around 13 or 12 participants, including me. So only one person. So in other words, it may be 1 for 10 people. That may be the reality. Some people are not really putting any effort on that one. Very important. I mean, this is like in a cycle. Touch-based input actually release the people from a stressful interaction with the computer. People find it very comfortable. They can easily interact. They can type without looking at the keys, and the people then can easily concentrate what they want to do. Otherwise, people's attention go to the location of a keys to find. This is not difficult. There are lots of tools, facilities available on the internet. Please do this one as something that improve your technical skill. More than the technical skills is your skill of using the technology. So people, lots of people in today's world, the people like it, but people are not asked to practice the touch-based keyboard. People, therefore, not putting any effort. And they keep on looking for keys, Kokomo approach to type even for a small thing. That is not good because no requirement, try to do it. So that is about the keyboard, I say. But on the other hand, keyboard, different types of keyboard, different phrases, even there are keys with different shapes, different key arrangement available, and that facilitate people to type the thing. So basic things. So for example, as you see this normal what we see, QWERTY arrangement is similar to the typewriter. But now people can use a non-alphanumeric keys can be placed. Standardized keyboards layouts are available. And how the keyboard works in a computer. Do you know? Suppose if you connect the computer, sorry, if you connect the keyboard to the computer, whatever the way, especially if you are using the USB type keyboard, we call this plug and play approach. You can immediately the system use the identify the keyboard if the driver is available. So usually the driver is the kind of a middleware that connects the computer and the keyboard. And then when you are typing a key on a keyboard, let's say a particular letter D you press, what goes to the keyboard is the letter D. From the keyboard to the computer, what goes? Letter or something else? The moment you press any letter on the keyboard, a signal should go to the computer. And what is the signal? And how it goes? Any idea, any comment? If you got a chance to watch that one, you may have heard, but anyway, even the general concepts are there. When you press a key on a keyboard, what goes from a keyboard to the computer? Is it a letter or something else? Just type the keyboard on the chat box if you know the answer.
Like byte patterns?
Like the byte patterns. So yes, this is called small pattern. It goes, we call that one scan code. Okay. Scan code is a small electrical signal that goes from one place to the from the keyboard to there. So every key, whenever you touch any key, the scan code is generated and it goes to computer. Then the computer interprets the scan code and display or take the relevant action. So the scan codes are kind of a hardware built signal, electrical signal, but it should be interpreted to the relevant ASCII character. Okay, I hope that you have heard ASCII character. To do that one, there must be another a technical thing in between. Does anybody knows about it? Let me ask you from the question is differently. Suppose if you are using in a Sinhala or Tamil or any other language keyboard, you can type even the Sinhala thing on the normal English keyboard. Not like in the Singlish approach, but the Sinhala has this the relevant drivers once you do it. But when you press the thing, a key, a scan code goes. A code goes to the computer, but then the computer, the middleware, okay, we call the keyboard map, is used to capture the relevant ASCII code. Therefore, the ASCII code depends on the language or some other requirement. It translates. So that is how this device works on the keyboard through the scan. And at the same time, the people can customize the keyboard map. For example, if you customize, if you press A, the screen may display Z. Because the computer doesn't understand you press the a key where the letter A there, it always takes the scan code and converts them into the using the details in the keyboard map to the respective character. So if you change the keyboard map, things will be completely upside down. So always very important to have the correct keyboard map installed as in the driver when you plug the computer, keyboard to a computer. These are the normal basic theories, okay? And at any stage, if you want to modify the keyboard map, or you wanted to change the key assigned, you can do so. So I have given different ways how you can use a third party tool, or even you can go to the system level and you can do it. But be careful, don't rush to do that one. But if you do some sort of a modification, you have to carefully define. So the scan code details are given just an example. Yeah, so the different keyboards, different keys, language keys are worked on that one. The same thing, very important in the interface design. I mean, the interface design, we use usually keyboard to touch, select, do lots of work. With the mouse, more interesting interaction. But what is this shortcut key? What is a shortcut key? Can someone see? Hope everybody knows a shortcut key. What do you mean by shortcut key? Still no answer. It's a combination of some keys which you can use to do something quickly. If you want to bold something, you use the Control B. Without going through the menu, that facilitates you to do something in a very fast way. Control C, Control V, they are shortcut keys. Otherwise, the user will have to go through the interface and select the relevant menu item, or depending on the way it was designed. Shortcut key is a kind of a technique if the user can use to do something quickly. Now my question, suppose if you want to change the or not the change, if you want to define a new shortcut key for your application, which you are developing part of your project, how do you do that? Anyone has an experience, any suggestion? How to create a new shortcut key? Using macros. Macros you can define. The main purpose of a macro is to automate something. And when you run a macro, several things will happen. You have to go You can use a third-party application to create a shortcut key, or you can use again in the scan code to define as an application level whenever particular key combination is done, when the user is using some application to get something done quickly. So low-level modification, inserting the shortcut key within the execution path of the action, or people can use a third-party software also to do that part. That is the advantage, will be very important. Yeah, because a multiple ways of interaction is very important. Shortcut key facilitate that multiple way to do things. So I move further down. These are the keyboard, different keyboards, special keyboards, especially for the people have some difficulties. Okay, disabled people we call differently. What is this RSI? Can someone say? Anyone here knows the RSI means what? Yes, repetitive stress injury. Strain injury is also say. Strain injury is the main thing that happen when you are using a keyboard. I mean, if you are, its fingers is the very sensitive organ in the human body. Sometimes easily the nerves in the fingers could be damaged. If the nerves on the fingers are damaged, the people lose the sensitivity and people lose the control of their fingers. I mean, these kind of problems sometimes people face at a later stage in the life, but anytime anything could be happen, people need to know about those problems that they encountered or face. Therefore, it's a very important to develop devices to minimize such kind of a problem people face when they use the equipments or interfaces. I think in the first lecture, I briefly defined a term. The term is about how you can reduce the kind of injuries that could happen when you are using a device, when you are using the interface. This process is known as what? Can you remember? Can you remember the process? The process to minimize any possible injury when people are using. Any idea? Have you heard something called ergonomics? Ergonomics is a kind of engineering approach we call to minimize the problems people face due to the repetitive use or continuous use of the technology. And there was in a section later you will see on ergonomics. Not only the fingers, even the eyes are more sensitive than the fingers. Okay, so could be easily damaged when you are using the technology in a long period without having a good understanding. So the actions people really need to do to minimize the damage that could happen. Sometimes people may get some automated help to minimize those problems. Some other time, people should be very careful when they are using the technology. Whether it is in a hardware-based interface or whether it is in a software-based interface, the same problem could occur. So there are some special keyboards called the short keyboard, and this is the all T9 keyboards, and this what we call the numeric keyboards, different types. Okay, virtual keyboards are very popular these days. No physical keyboard. It's a software-based keyboard. Even in a computer, you can open it. Then you can use it. If it is a touch-based interface, of course, you don't need to have a separate device for the keyboard. And on screen, you can get a keyboard up and you can use the touch to do it. So in many devices like in the tabs, you will get those kind of interfaces. Predictive text entry. What does it mean? You do not want to type everything. When you are typing first few letters, the system shows this is what you want to type, possibilities. So you can quickly select and move to the next word. So that is another feature that you can put whenever to facilitate the input process into the system, because to make the interaction very smooth, those kind of features should be added to the system. So the advances in the technology has made these things are very simple techniques which you can use it in any application now. You don't want to develop them. You can use lots of tools available. There are APIs, there is a third-party components. You can integrate it and you can get the data input process more faster. Natural interaction is most of the time in the text-based natural interaction. One thing is where people would like to write. The other way, where people may speak, that is what we call the voice to text, and this is the handwriting. So recognizing handwriting and converting them into the text input. Earlier was a tougher assignment. Now it's an easy thing any device can do. And you can use those things to do it. So on time, on real time recognition, online recognition is also possible. Offline recognition is also possible. That means online thing is while you are writing, it's immediately recognized. Offline means you write it on a piece of paper and then scan and upload. And when you scan and upload, you can use this OCR, optical character recognition, to capture that thing. So the processing mechanisms I have explained how it works, something. So text to speech is the other thing. Where I read out the text. Okay. You can use the read aloud. Read aloud is a kind of a good feature. There are lots of plugins available. If you don't like to read yourself, you can get those software to read it on behalf of you. I found it's a very convenient in a long duration. If you are working, you can use this kind of a text-to-speech software, lots of software. I mean, even in the browser, you can install plugins and then you can use them. I mean, even the web page, you can listen to the web page. Install the plugin and then use it. There are several plugins. I'm using the Natural Reader plugin. I mean, they're very nice, and you can even speed up the reading process. Okay, there. Yes. For example, if you like to see, I'll show that one. Now here I have installed here Natural Reader. Hope this will recognize. Just because of the PDF, I guess it doesn't work. But let's say if I go to some web page, how something like that. Suppose if I go to this page, you can see the page, I guess. Okay. If I try this one.
Competencies. Contents. Teachers can add competencies to courses and course activities. They can view a competency breakdown report from the administration
hear?
block and rate competencies. Staff with irrelevant capabilities can review student learning plans and view any evidence of prior learning students submit.
Can you hear?
For more details,
Yes,
see
okay.
Competencies
Thank you.
FAQ.
So that's
Students
the
can
way
view their
how
learning
the
plans,
text,
upload
even
evidence of
you
prior
can use
learning,
the
and
text to
request
voice.
reviews.
Very
For more
comfortable
details, see
when you are
Competencies
interacting,
FAQ.
and
For those with irrelevant
even
capabilities,
that
a
will
new
help the
learning plans
people
block is
to
available to be added to
work
the
very
dashboard, for
productively
example.
in the working
Course
environment.
competence.
Yeah. So let me. Yes, we were where we were. I think. No. Yeah, we were. What technologies? Yeah. So we were talking about the text to speech. So today it has become a very lightweight approach. Even you can use lots of tools for that. Then about the mouse, there was a discussion, and then direct indirect interaction, and even the mouse where you can use foot to control, and touchpad is in a small area on a computer like this where you see or people do it. Even the multi-touch gesture interaction, there are different gestures could be defined to do this one. Kind of an old device called the trackball, now not much use, but a very interesting mechanism. And joystick, sometimes we have used them. Then touch sensitive screen. Okay, that's why. Then the stylus and the light pen. What to do there? Digitizing tablet is another device, I guess, where people by systems capture where you are looking and then try to automatically move, as you can see the mouse point. So cursor keys, discrete positioning controls like in the what you see in the remote control. Yeah, that's all about that input thing. Then the voice-based input and output devices and the systems, natural interaction, speech recognition, speech to text. You can use lots of tools, and this is where people go for the towards the ubiquitous computing. What do you mean by ubiquitous computing? People can use lots of attacks and then can use those texts to create some interaction within a physical, non-digital things. The most popular one these days is the QR code. People scan the QR code and then through the mobile they can interact. This has become a very popular approach. And this is where everything becomes integrated with the computing, or what we call the digital space. So any devices, you can scan the QR code and you can find the more details. Even the same comes with the lots of products now. They even take it to the website. So multimodal and the natural interaction. Here, when it says the multimodal means what? Simply, if we can integrate the several input channels, then several input channels, then we can integrate them to provide a more effective interaction. So this is what we see, the touch screen, gesture, facial, voice. So that's where you find these multimodal interfaces. So the very good advanced interfaces people can build using the different devices available today. And this will increase lots of bandwidth. And to take the input very easily, both the direct and indirect interaction, and they become an advanced interfaces for the end users, where they take the multimedia content to edit. Yes. Then advantages of multimodality are also discussed, so you can go through. Difference between the traditional graphical user interfaces, where you see the we call this is icons, WIMP. There is a concept called Windows icon menu pointer, where the multimodal is based on the more sensor-based interfaces to capture many things. That was discussed there. And the gesture-based interaction is very, very interesting. I mean, I have put some YouTube link if you have the time to watch that. And if you have gotten a chance to play with the V or Microsoft 360 or Sony PlayStation, you can really experience how this gesture-based interactions works. Okay, where are the people? So there is a small link which you can go through and see. And then tangible interfaces, the people can have put lots of things attached to the physical. Now, for example, your cup could be linked, it becoming a very sensitive, which collect the data. How much water do you drink for the day? If you want to get, you can have a smart cup which can collect all this data and provide you the feedback. And say it's gonna provide you a feedback saying that you have not drink adequate water at the end of the day. So for that, you need to have a smart cup which can be do that kind of thing. So there are lots of tools, technology available for that. Okay, very interesting applications. Tangible user interfaces. 6 senses. People put it this. Please watch this video. Going the media wearable gesture. We call the wearable gesture. Now, computing becoming a part of the people. So effect of the computing power for HCI for the future is also that's what you really need to can learn about how future will change. Okay. Future of the way people use the computing has a change during the last 20 years. A big change in the way people use, but it will change in the next 10 years very significantly. So where if you have a time, you can see the Google Glass, touch base, and lots of things are happening. So computing is, you don't need the computers in the future. Computing becomes a part of every device where it becomes. So future innovations and with this augmented reality is put it into that one where even lots of things can be done with this QR code and where people scan it and start interacting. When a person goes in another area, automatically messages pops up. Okay, things like that. So that's the whole these things a very interesting thing when you explore the stuff, not just by reading and trying to keep thing memory, but how technology can effectively use to create advanced interfaces for interaction design. Okay, that understanding is very, very important. Every day things are changing. So I invite all of you, to discuss, share something in this discussion forum. Then only you can reflect what you have there. So far, no one has done any posting. Please do so. And other thing, now I have activated a small quiz about the evolving technology. So you have to do that one. 2 attempts is allowed until 24th of November. That's the deadline. Very simple setup. You can do one and then you can understand it. Try 2 attempts, highest marks will be taken. Okay. And those things will be counted and your participation also will be counted for the continuous assessment. And yes, so 5 people have answered. Thank you for all the piece. That's all what I wanted to tell during the day. But if you have any question, I am happy to answer. If you have any feedback, please provide. If you have any question, you can put on the chat box, so you can unmute and directly ask, no problem. Yeah, so please provide the feedback. You can say, if you have not done this activity, do this activity and go through the slides and do the quiz and also participate the discussion forum, saying your views, some ideas. So that's where your participation will be counted at the end for the continuous assessment. Okay. Some people you can easily get some few marks added for your final grade if you do those things, which you can reflect. So very important for the participation. The last time some people could have been getting the higher grade if they have some participation in the discussion forum. Yeah. So I give some marks for the people who are active in that way. Yeah. So that's all for the today. If there is no other question, we are going to stop. Okay, I'll unshare and we'll stop the meeting now if there is another. Okay. Thank you.